Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, I want to talk to you about being in the caregiver role with your PMDD partner. There are so many reasons why I want to talk about this, and the first reason is because being in the caregiver role is one of the things that I discussed in depth and researched with my PMDD dissertation, which is now published. It is officially live and in the research for all of the counselors, psychotherapists, all of the things, gynecologists, anybody that really looks into the research for what they can do for PMDD partners. My dissertation, my research study pops up, and it just happened September of 2023. So whenever you're listening to this, you'll know when it actually happened. And I am so excited. The link to actually download and view my dissertation, which I hope you have a lot of time on your hands because it's 160 pages. But it is live right now, and it's on the link in my bio on Instagram, which is In Love with PMDD. Also, I am sending out an email. If you're not on my email list where you're getting that PMDD weekly digest, which is, I send out tools for PMDD partners every week, announcements of all of the tools that I have specifically for PMDD partners. Anything that I have for you, I send that out. So if you're not already on my email list for the PMDD weekly digest, make sure that you either email me, which is rose@inlovewithpmdd, or you can message me on Instagram @inlovewithpmdd and say that you want to be added to the list, because I send out a lot of things on that email list every single week, videos, documents, and I'm trying to really connect with you all via that email list. So if you're not on there, make sure that you DM me or email me so that you can join and get access to more tools for your PMDD relationships that are actually free. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the caregiver role for that reason, because of my dissertation, and then also with everything that has been going on with my PMDD partner. And ironically, so my doctorate journey was 6 years in the making, 6 years total, 5.5 rounded off to 6. And I talked about the caregiver role very early on in my research, because I was noticing as I was interviewing my participants, a lot of them kept talking about how the role of being the caregiver was something that they, number one, they weren't prepared for. Number two, it brought up a lot of issues in other areas of their relationship that they were not aware that was going to be affected. And I remember listening to the interviews, and I'm like, wow, that I don't think that they all knew that they were being a caregiver. They didn't know that when they were taking on the task of being in a relationship with someone who has PMDD, that part of that responsibility of being a supportive PMDD partner is being a caregiver for approximately 2 weeks out of the month. You are literally a in-home caregiver if you live together. And if you don't live together, it's almost even worse because you're going back and forth trying to be there for them. And I don't think that they were fully aware of what that could bring up in their intimate relationship. And when I was listening to the interviews, I was like, oh my goodness. And a lot of the things that my participants told me for my research study, they were telling me things, and they literally said, I've not told this to my PMDD partner, the one that was suffering with PMDD. And a couple of them said, please don't tell, her what it is that I'm telling you, because I don't want her to feel bad about it. So a lot of the PMDD partners were internalizing the struggle that they were going through by being a caregiver in their PMDD relationship, because they felt like, why should I be the one to complain about being the caregiver when they're the ones with the actual PMDD symptoms? I'm not experiencing any symptoms, so they were minimizing the impact of being a caregiver in the relationship without even recognizing that they were experiencing symptoms as well. And I'm going to talk to you today about what that looks like. But when I wrote that, that was specifically for the partner that does not have PMDD. I really wanted to explore what that looks like, what they went through. And my dissertation research study was a qualitative method. And what that means is I explored the lived experience, the real, raw, unbiased experience of PMDD partners. I didn't want it to be quantitative, whereas as I'm telling them what they're experiencing and they're just giving me, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about this? No, I didn't give them any indication of what to say. I asked them questions and they willingly opened up. And then I researched their answers for commonalities between all of the PMDD partners. And one of the commonalities is the burden of the caregiver role in a PMDD partnership. And what I'm going to do for the next couple of weeks, now that my dissertation is officially published, is I'm going to be going through it with you. But if you join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy, I am going to be going in depth with my whole dissertation. And it's going to be starting in the month of November. So you need to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy by November, because this month in October, we're going all in with communication, because it goes right into what we've been talking about with intrusive thoughts. Like, one of the things that I've really been struggling with for myself and a lot of my private clients, and pretty much all the PMDD partners that I interact with on all of the forums, all of the things, are the PMDD intrusive thoughts. And so I did a 4-part series for the month of September on that. And I just did my final live today, the live Q&A, in which I broke down crying because it was that emotional for me to go through what the PMDD intrusive thoughts were going through. And the beauty of having these trainings is that when you join, you can have access to all of the prior trainings to learn about these things. So I want to make sure that you join specifically for November, because we're going to go over it really is our dissertation, that I did. And I really talk about so many different topics within PMDD relationships in my dissertation, hence the 160 pages and over 100 resources are research references that I had to study. But going back to the caregiver role, I was talking about it within the realms of the person that doesn't suffer with PMDD. I just wanted to hear what it is that they were going through, because they kept bringing up all of the changes that they had in their life and all of these things. And lately, within my own PMDD relationship, I have had to become the caregiver for my PMDD partner, as he has gone through multiple health scares. Some were fatal. And I've talked about them a little bit here and very extensively in the Breakup Proof Academy. But the first one was earlier this year with his cancer scare, where he had to have a tumor removed. And then literally not even 2 months after that, he just had to have an emergency surgery where he had his gallbladder removed. And in both of those instances, I, the one who has PMDD, had to take on the role of the caregiver. And when I tell you that this has been such a shift in my PMDD relationship, I've never been at a lower place, a darker place in my PMDD relationship as a result of taking on this caregiver role and seeing what that looks like from the PMDD partner's perspective. And I see firsthand how it can impact a PMDD relationship. And it's not good. It is not good at all, because imagine everything negative about your PMDD partner being magnified. Now, I'm not telling you that every PMDD partner reacts the same way when they're going through illnesses. There are some that are just like they just disassociate, or they're just not really all there, and then it's kind of, I feel like it's a lesser blow, versus my PMDD partner has been very aggressive, very unhappy, very vocal about his unhappiness, very depressed, very insecure, very jealous. There's a lot of emotions that being a caregiver brings up. When someone is in pain, everything comes up. And this is why when I went to premarital counseling, they really stressed the importance of being with someone for multiple phases of their life and seeing if it's something that you can handle. Meaning, don't just be with someone when they're in their good days, when they're feeling good, and then all of a sudden they get sick, and then they're acting out of character in a way that you can't handle. And I don't think that I've seen my PMDD partner in a darker place. And also, I don't think that this is anything that I could have cultivated before we got married, because this shift that has been happening has been a result of where he is in his career, where he is in his life. And there was no way to predict that this was how he was going to react when he is going through this big life change. And when I say big life change, I mean, he has done over 30 years, Lord Jesus, over 20 years in the Marine Corps. He's done 22. He's on year 22. And there's a lot of wear and tear that he has taken on his body, because he is infantry. He's on the front line. His job is to kill. And a lot of that is the burden of taking troops out there, taking Marines out there and leading them into war and being really tough with them. And it's and just enduring a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. And it's taken a toll on his body. And I see why in the military that they say, okay, you can retire after 20 years, because a lot happens to our minds and our bodies after the 20-year mark. It starts to go downhill from there, from what I've seen. And I've been in the military for 20 years now, and my job is less strenuous than my PMDD partner, but I can see even on a mental aspect, you take on so much trauma, so much, it's not, it's a different type of sacrifice because of number one, the time constraints. Like, it's not the typical 9 to 5. It's literally 24/7. You literally are responsible for so many people, and there's pressure in that. And so I think the mental and physical aspect of being in the military for over 20 years is very daunting, in a sense that I just feel like there is a reason why they put it at a 20-year mark. And so we had a conversation with my PMDD partner. I had a conversation, and I wanted him to get out at the 20-year mark for this reason. I did not want him to experience any of the things that he is experiencing right now. And a lot of that is what he's experiencing is mentally being prepared to do a lot of things that physically he is no longer able to do, and then having to be mentally and emotionally impacted by the inability to perform at a level that used to be effortless for him. When I tell you about the strenuous things that they do when they go to war, they are hiking 10, 12, 20 miles with 40 to 50 pounds on their back, and they're sleeping out in the field for months at a time, and they're doing all these things. And when you get to a point where my PMDD partner was, where number one, he had the cancer scare and had to have the tumor removed, the first thing he asked was, how soon can I get back out there? How soon can I go back to work? Because there's a level of responsibility. Now at the rank that he is, he's the top. He's at the top in his career field. And so he has so many people that are under him, that are looking up to him, that even the pressure of getting better is on him. So the level of stress that he is enduring right now is far beyond anything that he should be able to handle with the health scares that he's had. So if he was enduring this stress and he was able to physically and mentally show up and be there, that would be completely different. And so when we first started dating, I was fully aware that I was marrying a Marine, which means what comes with that territory is his job was going to take the front line. Just like he goes on the front line, his job was going to take the front line a lot of times in his life. And I was okay with that. I was more than okay with that because I know the commitment that it takes with being in the military while you're in a relationship. And the demands of the job. So I had no issue with being that person for him to just talk to relate to, all the things. It is when being in that role of being the supportive partner, but a lot of the anger and the frustration and the stress, it started to get turned on the way he interacted with me, which is something that I never expected. The side of him that I have seen within the last couple of years, I would say 2 years, which is when he's been in his hardest assignments because his body is shutting down, right? His body is literally saying no more. And his mind is saying, let's keep going. And he's continuously putting himself in situations to where he's commanding that his body do things, that his mind is like, okay, I'm going to push your body to do this. But in the repercussions of that is that it's breaking down. And so when you're used to operating at a certain level and you can't anymore, how this is impacting our relationship is that all of that stress that he's having from not being able to perform is showing up in multiple ways in our PMDD relationship. Number one is showing up with jealousy and insecurity because he's not able to, especially when a lot of this stuff is happening physically with him. There's a lot of things physically he would love to do. Like I just went to Hawaii on vacation. He would have loved to go, but he had just had his gallbladder removed. And a lot of the things that we did to connect were very active, very active. He would have loved to go hiking with me, to go surfing, to be outside. He's a very outdoorsy type person. And he was barely walking at the time. So when I was taking on that caregiver role, instead of him being grateful or showing gratitude, he was really just mad about his whole situation. He was trying to rush the recovery. And I was dealing with attitudes about that, like things that I felt like he should have taken more time to heal. And instead of him listening to me and saying like, okay, I need more time to heal, he's trying to rush and go back to work because he's thinking about the work responsibilities, because in his mind, he's having all these intrusive thoughts and fears about, oh my goodness, if they see me down, then they're going to replace me with someone else. They're going to think that I'm not the person for the job and everything like that. And I'm on the side. So it literally, I was going against his main goal. His main goal was to go back to work and to get back at it and just get back to normal. And my goal was for him to rest and recover so that when he does go back, he doesn't do more damage. If he goes back too early and he pulls things, like there's internal bleeding that could happen. There's so many things. And so from a wife and a PMDD partner's perspective, I was looking out for his well-being in the long run, because we always say, and I always tell my soldiers, the Marine Corps, the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, it's not always going to be there. Your family is the thing that's going to be there. So make sure that you're nurturing your family, because the worst thing you can do at the end of your career with being in the military is to fight for your country for 20 plus years, go to your retirement, and there's no family there because you've completely abandoned them. And this is the process that I feel, this is the rabbit hole that I feel he's going down, because he's not prioritizing our relationship at this time. And I don't even know if he notices it. I think that his drive to succeed in the Marine Corps is overshadowing his need to succeed in our relationship. And I don't know if he thinks that, oh, she'll always be there, so I just need to get another win. But I pay attention to how people are when they're at their worst, because anybody can be at their best when they're at their best. When you're at your best, you're feeling good. When I'm in my follicular days, it's easy for me to be loving. It's easy for me to be connected. But how am I when I'm in my PMDD days? And this is why I give you the tools, because this is what I work with you on. How are you reacting and treating your PMDD partner when you're at your worst? When you're in your PMDD days and you feel horrible? How are you talking to them? How are you connecting with them? How are you prioritizing them? How are you making sure that they're good, even though you know that you're not good? And this is a lot of what I've had to do internally with myself over the last 2 years when he's been going through this tough spot, is that I've had to really recognize that I'm struggling in PMDD every month, but it's almost like my PMDD partner is seemingly struggling worse than me, because both of those situations that he was in were, once we talked to the doctors, they were life or death. Meaning if he wouldn't have gone to get his gallbladder removed because he had all those gallstones and stuff, something would have happened in his gut and exploded, and he could have died. If we wouldn't have caught his cancer as early as we did, it could have spread to multiple parts of his body and he could have died. So he is now dealing with mortality. And I don't know if it's a sense of, if I'm going to die, I want to accomplish a certain amount of things before I go. And there's that rush for, that. But there's something that is placing his career and the stress that he's going through above our relationship. And I've never seen this side of him. And I know that, so we're now in 2023. So whenever you're listening to this, in 2026, that's the year that both of us will retire from our careers in the military. So at that point, I would have done 23 years and he would have done, I hate math. So 22. Oh my gosh. Is it 26? No, he would have done 5. So he would have done 25 years. So he'll have done 25 years. I've done 22 years. And being dual military, meaning we're both in the military, and being apart as long as we've been apart, is not easy. But I feel like the end is so hard. And this is why I've counseled so many military couples that have split up, that have broken up, because the stresses of the job and the career has overshadowed their actual relationship. You have to have a different, mindset. And so now that I'm in this caregiver role, whereas I'm also needing care. So this is the first thing that I want you to really think about, is sometimes you're in the caregiver role and you are needing care from your PMDD partner. And a lot of times when I was talking to a lot of my research participants for my dissertation study, they were saying that they had a lot of stuff going on. And I asked the question, do you hold in your emotional and physical needs when your PMDD partner is in PMDD? The answer was 100% yes. So what that tells me is that they all felt like whatever it is that they were physically or emotionally going through, they put it to the side for 2 weeks out of the month because they felt like their needs were nothing in comparison to the suffering of those with PMDD. And when I asked them how they rationalized that, they said, well, I have a need for affection and I'm not getting affection during that time because, she's suffering in PMDD and I'm needing to have sex. And, she's not feeling like having sex because she's in PMDD and I'm needing, emotional connection when I get home, but she's not feeling like it because she's in PMDD. And I'm needing for her to just genuinely look at me and smile like she loves me. And right now she's not even looking at me at all. And when she does look at me, it's to tell me that I'm doing something wrong. They said that I'm needing for her to be social and be in certain environments with me so that I can spend time with her. Like if I have to go to a work event, a work party, I want to be able to take my partner. But if she's in PMDD, she's not there and I have to be understanding of that. So there were so many things from the realm of physical, mental, emotional, and social that they were lacking, but they felt like they couldn't bring it up to the partner that was suffering with PMDD because their suffering didn't match. So there becomes this level of comparing whose suffering is worse. When you're in that role of being the caregiver and you're going through something, and this tends to happen a lot of times where you have PMDD and your partner has another disorder. I have a lot of private clients where they have their partner has multiple disorders. So instead of the PMDD sufferer, the one that's suffering with PMDD, getting the care that they need, they are muting their PMDD symptoms, muting them to take care of their partner because their partner has another disorder. This can be OCD, ADHD, autism. This can be bipolar. This can be depression. This can be anxiety. This can be any type of disorder that your PMDD partner has. And then you feel like maybe they're suffering more. It's all about the self-awareness of the both of you in the relationship. And somebody makes a decision. What I've noticed from all of my research is that one person makes a decision that the other partner's suffering is worse than theirs, and then they mute theirs. So say if I've been suffering with PMDD symptoms, obviously every month, but I noticed that I stopped even mentioning them to my PMDD partner because of the fact that every time I talked to him, he was telling me all of the things that he had going on with his health scares. And on top of him having those two physical health scares, he also has depression, anxiety, ADD, a lot of things that he has going on with him. PTSD, like a lot, he has a lot going on. And I just remember when I muted my PMDD symptoms, and I think this is what led to a lot of my burnout. And I'm going to do another episode on that as I go through my series on my whole dissertation within the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy, because burnout is definitely the next thing that we think about when we're talking about the role of a caregiver in a PMDD relationship. And so when I went through, as I've been going through this time, it brings out different sides of your PMDD partner. Like I said, I've never, ever, ever seen my PMDD partner like this in my life. And I don't think that I was prepared for it. And I don't think that a lot of times it's kind of a helpless feeling because I can't control his emotions, his triggers. All I can do is be supportive, but I'm being supportive at the expense of my own suffering, meaning I'm suffering and I have to understand that my PMDD partner is not in a place to be there for me the way I need. And a lot of times when you go through PMDD, and maybe sometimes the ego gets there, and it's a lot of, the ego is very selfish. It's like, why should I have to put up with all of this? But what I've also noticed is a lot of the couples that have gone through the most with their PMDD partner, meaning that they're in the longest relationships, according to my research, they have gone through years of hard times, and then they made it to the other side. So a lot of times you may be going through a hard year right now. You may be saying, 2023 for me sucks. This is the worst year in my PMDD relationship. Because I said that today when I opened up in the Breakup Proof Academy. I'm like, this is the worst, right? Because I'm also like, when I'm in the academy, I'm real and raw, and so is everyone else that's in there. So if you not join, you need to join to have that safe place. And that's even something that one of the members said to me today. She was like, this is a safe place. And immediately, of course, I start crying because I've not always had that. And that's when I realized the beauty of the academy and what I had created with these PMDD partners. Is I was thinking to myself today when I got off the session, like, what would I have done if I would have been in this place of being a caregiver, going through all of this, feeling like I want to break up, feeling like I want to get the heck up out of here because I have an avoidant attachment style and this doesn't feel comfortable for me and it feels overwhelming and I feel stressed and I'm on day 3 of PMDD and I don't know what else to do. I feel helpless. Like I've done everything that I know to do and it seems like it's just not enough. And so when you get to that point where you feel like there's nothing more that I can do, and you're just like what I would call sitting, like my business coach calls it sitting in the dirty diaper, and you're just sitting in it. You're sitting in this very uncomfortable, negative place, and you're not seeing any changes and you're not seeing any way out of it. What do you do? And the first thing I did for me was when I went into the academy, I just let it all out because I can't keep it in, but I also my partner's not in a place to receive it right now. And yes, I could do one or two things. I could blame him and say, you know what, it's your fault that I'm suffering because you're not in a place to be supportive for me. Or I can redirect my focus and look for a different outlet. And that's what I've done with the academy. I have another outlet to talk about my intrusive thoughts, to talk about how I'm feeling like being a caregiver is a burden for me. I have that safe place. And I'm so grateful. I am so, so, so grateful because I honestly don't know what I would do. I, with all the tools, don't know what I would do because you're not supposed to do this alone. You still need support. Even though you're getting the tools from me, when I'm doing the tools, I need support. I need support and I need accountability. And that's why we meet every week on a weekly basis because stuff happens in my PMDD relationship on a daily basis. Like there's never a day where I don't. That's why if you're not following me on Instagram, you need to follow me on Instagram. I literally blog how I'm feeling, what's going on in my PMDD relationship every single day. And every single day I have something that's going on. So I know if I do, I know that you do too, because every single time that I'm in the Breakup Proof Academy and I'm speaking and they're like, you're reading my mind, like, and I'm like, because we're all going through the same thing. We all have PMDD or our partner has PMDD. And so we're dealing with all of these same issues, but it can be a very lonely journey. Like it was for me in the beginning. It was very lonely. And I remember feeling like really helpless, like, I'll forget this. But then I also knew if I break up with this PMDD partner, I'm going to end up right back at the start line with another PMDD partner because anybody that I'm going to be with is going to have to use these tools and it's going to have to be able to navigate it in a way that it is not common for a regular relationship. The things that we have to endure and deal with having PMDD or our partner having PMDD, it's not common, right? And so I want to go over how being a caregiver can be a burden in your PMDD relationship. And I'm not saying it's a burden like it's a bad thing. It's a very honorable thing to choose to be there for your PMDD partner. This is what they mean, when you get married and they say in good times and bad and sickness and health. And I feel like we all get tested. And right now I'm getting tested on my vows like you would not believe. It's like, did I say in sickness and health? Like, yeah, I said it. Okay, great. Because this is where we're at. And one of the biggest ways for me that I've noticed that it's shown up for me is the increased stress levels. So the stress of caregiving a PMDD partner increases your overall stress levels, and it makes it difficult to manage everyday stressors. Like if I have other stressful things like PMDD, for example, or things with our daughter or things with any other area of my life, and I'm being a caregiver, everything is magnified because you're going through a lot of these stressors without the support of your PMDD partner. You're having to make decisions about your household. You're having to make decisions about your life, and you don't have that extra person. So it's almost like you have an extra person, but you don't actually have an extra person. Like they're there, but they're not really there. You're kind of counting them out. It's like if you were on a baseball team and they're on the bench and you're in the game the whole time and they're just sitting on the bench in the dugout. Like that's what it feels like. It feels like I know I'm on a team. I know I have a partner, but when I'm out on the field, I'm out on the field by myself. And that's how I've been feeling for the past, I would say off and on for 2 years. Like he's not been my teammate like he used to be. And it's so different for me because he used to be. And I think a lot of times that's what makes it so hard because you remember what it was like with your PMDD partner before you were in that caregiver role. You remember in your earlier days where you did do everything together, you were seeing things eye to eye, you remember that. And then now you look at where you are and you're like, ugh, like this is nothing compared to what it was before. And then a lot of times you can say, this is not what I signed up for. But a lot of times in PMDD relationships, we sign up for one thing and we end up getting another. But this is where it tests your level of commitment to your PMDD partner. Like, how committed are you? Because it's easy for anyone to be committed when everything is good, when we're in our follicular days, where nobody's sick, everybody's good. It's easy. But what are you like when your partner has something going on? Whatever the condition is. And the next way that being in the role of a caregiver can be a burden to your PMDD relationship is the physical and emotional exhaustion. And that's exactly where I am. So the demands of caregiving, especially for someone with PMDD, it leads to physical and emotional exhaustion. And this exhaustion can leave you with limited energy and emotional connection to your PMDD partner. I have felt this 100%. Physically, I've not been able to do my morning routine in about almost 40 days. I've tried one or two times, but it feels so heavy for me. I'm constantly pouring into my PMDD partner and I'm not getting my cup full. And then I'm having to sit with that and I'm having to readjust my levels of expectations towards my PMDD partner, meaning like I'm having to tell myself, you can't depend on him for this because he doesn't have it in him. This is what I want you to know. If your PMDD partner doesn't have it within them to comfort themselves, then they definitely don't have it for you. And that's not a personal thing. It's not that they don't want to. I'm pretty sure my partner would love to be there for me right now. Is he here for me? No. No, 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 no. What good is it going to be for me to rub it in his face, to make him feel bad about it? I'm pretty sure he already feels bad about it. So when your partner who's suffering is going either through PMDD or it's the person that has another condition, when they're going through that, they want to be at full capacity. They want to be there for you. They just may not be able to because they're not there for themselves. And so I want you to really think about when you're saying that your PMDD partner is not there for you physically or emotionally, maybe your intimacy is going down the drain. Maybe you're no longer intimate and now you're blaming them for the lack of intimacy. Maybe it's financially, they're not able to provide what they used to be able to provide. There's always going to be a time where your PMDD partner is not showing up in a way that they used to show up before or that they actually want to. It doesn't make your PMDD partner feel good to fail at being there for you. I'm going to repeat that. It doesn't make your PMDD partner feel good to fail at being there for you. So what good is it throwing it in their face that they're not being there for you? That used to be me earlier in my journey. I'm like, I got to let them know. I got to let him know that he's not doing this and he's not doing this in hopes that he'll do it. When in reality, if he could do it, he would. You wouldn't even have to ask. If your PMDD partner could be there for you and show up for you at full capacity, I'm pretty sure that they would. If they're not showing up, it's probably for a reason. And the reason is that they're going through something right now. And you have to really give them permission to have bad seasons in their life that affect your PMDD relationship. It's going to happen. That's why they say these in the vows when you get married, in sickness and health and rich or poor. They don't say that because it may or may not happen. It's probably going to happen. But when you're talking about spending a lifetime with a person, you go through ebbs and flows. You know, I listened to a YouTube video with Michelle Obama, and she was talking about her and Barack have been married for 30 years. And she's like, 10 of them have been horrible. But I would take a bad 10 versus not having that good 20 and the rest of my life with this person. And I'm not saying all 10 of those years, this is her talking. She wasn't saying all 10 of those years were back to back, but out of the 30, there was 10 of them that were not good. So I want you to really think about, when you're in that caregiver role, how long are you planning on being with your PMDD partner? If it's a lifetime, say if a lifetime is 60 years, say you have 60 years together, and I wish that you have more. I'm just using that number. But say you have 60 years together, you're going to have a percentage. And again, I didn't do my dissertation on quantitative, data for a reason. I'm not a numbers person. I'm not a percentage person. But what I am telling you is a percentage, whatever that is, of your 60 years, let's just say, is going to be filled with challenges. And it may feel ugly and it may feel horrible, and you may feel like you're getting the short end of the stick. And I'm going to be very honest with you. I feel like I'm getting the short end of the stick right now. I'm committed, but I'm committed to the short stick. That's what I feel like. I'm in this. I don't feel like I'm getting treated like I deserve to be treated. I feel like I need more, but this is where I'm at. Like, it's a level of acceptance. I'm not fighting it anymore. I used to fight it and think that I could like squeeze the tube of toothpaste and make my partner show up the way that I thought that they should by telling them how horrible they are. And then all that does is make them feel even worse. And then they really don't show up for me. So if you think that reinforcing what they're not doing, what your PMDD partner is not doing, is going to make them show up even worse, please don't do that, because it doesn't work. It only makes things worse. They know what they're not doing. Even if they're acting completely oblivious, they know where they're not showing up, because they once were showing up in that area. If they weren't, you wouldn't be with them. So I want you to think about that. If when they weren't going through whatever condition that they have, when they're not in PMDD, how were they treating you in the follicular days? When they didn't have these symptoms of whatever disorder that they have, how were they treating you? I'm pretty sure if they could snap their fingers and be back in that realm, they would do that, but they're not there yet. They don't have it. When they're dealing with these conditions and you're in the role of a caregiver, you have to realize you can't ask them for things that they don't have. It's like a empty jar of pickles, and you just keep reaching yourself in there, and all you're getting is the juice. Like, I used to do that when I was little. I love pickles. And I grew up going to in the summertime. I would go to North Carolina with my aunts, and they, had a farm, and they would have fresh, pickles that came from cucumbers. And I would be reaching in there sometime, and I'm like reaching for the pickle, even though it's see-through and there's nothing in there. When I pulled the last pickle out, I just had to wait for them to put more in there. And I feel like a lot of times that's what you're doing when you're nagging your PMDD partner to show up for you in a different way, and they don't actually have it. You see that they're on edge. You see that they're stressed with work. And a lot of times it is work. And that's what I noticed with my PMDD partner is, I'm being a caregiver, but a lot of the issues that he has going on is related to his ability to work and have purpose. It matters a lot to your PMDD partner. And so, listen, you may be like me, where I can separate work and home easily. My partner cannot, meaning if things aren't going well for him at work, things aren't going well for us at home. That's just his makeup. That's just how he is. I have a lot of private clients where it's the same way. If they're really stressed and overwhelmed at work, it's really hard for them to show up as their full self in the relationship. And a lot of times we just have to understand that. And so if you're the caregiver, in that role, then you're just being the supportive PMDD partner, even though your cup may not be getting filled at that moment. And I know what you're thinking. Well, what about me? When do I get my cup filled? If you stay in that mode, you're not going to be able to show up and be supportive because your hand is still out. So instead of pouring into them, you're only doing it for the purpose of getting your cup filled, which a lot of times I've seen this happen where you're giving to your PMDD partner for the purpose of them giving back to you, not because you're genuinely giving to them with no expectation of anything in return. That's the unconditional love. It's like, I'm going to love you, I'm going to support you, and I'm going to be there for you, even if you give me nothing in return. That is why it's so rare, because a lot of love these days is very conditional, especially with PMDD. If you have PMDD, or you're in a PMDD relationship, which I'm pretty sure you are because you're here, you have to have that unconditional love, because a lot of times you may be in that role of you're the caregiver, meaning you're pouring into them and they're not giving you anything back. I'm not saying that they never will, but they're just not in a place to give it back at the moment. If your partner is deep in PMDD and they're suffering, they're probably not in a place to give to you in the way that you would like for them to. And it's a matter of shifting your perspective and saying, like, how much do I love them? How committed am I to this relationship that I'm able to be there for them, even though I'm not getting my needs met? Are you going to your PMDD partner with your hand out, or are you going to lend them a hand? This is a tool that I use with a lot of my PMDD partners when I realize that they're in that caregiver mode. Are you going to your PMDD partner with your hand out? Like, I need something from you. I need love. I need intimacy. I need affection. I need attention. I need. Or are you going to them with, how can I serve you? How can I be there for you? What is it that you need from me? You need love. You need affection. You need attention. I'm not going to bring up the fact that you're not giving that to me right now. I'm not going to even throw it in your face that you've said all these hurtful words, because I know that it's not going to make you feel any better. You can't go back in time. You can't undo it. But I'm here to serve you. I'm here to be a caregiver to you. And that's what it means to be a caregiver, is you're caring about giving. It's not a caretaker. I believe that's like a deadly thing, like the caretaker, like the evil people. That's what they are, because they're taking it away. You're there to give care. And a lot of you don't realize that you're in that caregiver mode. So if you're the partner that doesn't have PMDD, when your partner goes into PMDD, you need to develop a mentality of, I'm in the caregiver role. My PMDD partner may not be showing up for me the way I want, but I'm here to give care to them, and that's it. Because I know that they need me, because I know that that's it. Not, oh, they're not there for me, so I'm not going to be there for them. You're not doing tit for tat. And that's why the next PMDD trauma transformational tool on how to show you how being a caregiver shows up in your PMDD relationship is a shift in priorities. So when I'm in the caregiver role for my PMDD partner, my priorities, number one, are his basic needs. It used to be, I need to make sure I'm good, and then I can be good for him and everything, and then that's it. But when he's in that place where he's not doing well, I have to shift my priorities. I've had to alter my morning routine and all these things. I've had to alter plans that I have for myself so many times because he needs me. And so the needs of the care recipient, aka my PMDD partner, it takes precedence over my personal needs, which can lead to feelings of neglect. Like, I may feel like, oh, my needs are getting neglected. And this may be a way that you have to really identify what are your non-negotiables. I have developed my morning routine where I'm at least doing a walk. Whereas I used to do a walk and a workout and a meditation, journaling, all the things. And now I'm like, okay, if I get out on a walk and I'm doing my meditation, which can be very short, like, I'm shortening the timeline of everything. Specifically, when I was in those roles of caregiving, when my partner was right after surgery, post-op, where he could literally not get out of the bed, where he could literally not stand up without me. I have to shift my perspective for everything. Because now it wasn't about me getting up and doing what it is to fill my tank. I had to be there for him and then fill my tank up the best way that I can. So I'm not telling you to neglect your self-care, but what I am telling you, whatever the things that you're doing, you have to shift your perspective, even if it's for a limited amount of time, to be able to be there for them. And the next PMDD trauma transformational tool on how, caregiving can be a burden in your PMDD relationship is the roles may change. I know for my PMDD partner, this is really hard for him because he's used to doing a lot of things for me, especially physically, fixing things and doing things around the house. When he was here for 2 weeks, and he kept asking me every day that I went to work or I had client calls or whatever, and he was like, is there anything that I could do for you? And I remember saying, no, I just want you to rest. The roles had changed where I was doing most of the work. I was taking out the trash. I was doing all of these things because I knew that he couldn't do it. And I put him in that role of just resting and relaxing. And so I had no expectation for him to show up for me in that way. And again, over time, that can lead to a lot of bitterness and resentment because you end up doing certain roles within your household that you never intended to do, that you may even think, I shouldn't even be the one to do this. Like they should do this for me, or I shouldn't be, if it's specifically like taking out the trash and stuff. And one of the things that really came up in my dissertation research study was limited time and freedom. So caregiving responsibilities can limit your availability and flexibility with social activities. So I had a lot of research participants that were in college, in uni, in the UK, and they were wanting, to go out and do this, but they felt like they couldn't go out because their PMDD partner was suffering with PMDD symptoms and they were just sitting there crying. So they felt really guilty. So instead of going out, they stayed with them, but there became a lot of bitterness and resentment because they felt like they weren't getting their full uni experience, their university experience, because they were caring for the PMDD partner. And a lot of them were in those young ages, they were in the early stages of their relationship where they were wanting to form and make friends and make bonds and memories, but they were feeling like because they were in a relationship with someone that had PMDD, they couldn't do that. So that limited time and freedom, it really made an impact on them more than I think they expected. And the next one is the communication challenges. So the stress and fatigue associated with caregiving your PMDD partner can lead to communication challenges within your relationship. And this is what really happened with us, is that my PMDD partner started to be way more aggressive in his communication, way more negative, way more demanding, way more ungrateful. Like all of these qualities came out via communication, and words or affirmation are one of my love languages. And he just communicates to me differently now that I'm in the caregiver role and he's in that role of not being on the up and up. That loving communication is few and far in between. And I noticed that sometimes when we communicate, especially via text, it's very logistical. What's for dinner? What are you doing for this? Like it's very matter of factly. And it's not really for the purpose of connecting emotionally. It's like, are your basic needs met? Okay, good. I'm going to sleep. Because a lot of times I feel like because my PMDD partner is suffering so much and even physically suffering with the aches and pains in his body, he wants to like get off of work and just go straight to sleep. So we don't even have time to like sit and communicate when he gets off work because he just wants to go to sleep. So when you cut down on that communication, you're also cutting down on the intimacy level, because I know that's how we used to communicate a lot of times, especially when we're in long distance. And so you may have, when your PMDD partner is suffering in PMDD, they may speak less to you, or they may speak to you in a tone that's really matter of factly, and it's not emotionally connecting. And that's something that you really have to grasp and deal with. And the next thing is the loss of independence. So caregiving often involves sacrificing your own personal independence and freedom. You can't just leave the house when you want to leave the house when you have someone that is depending on you. You can't just go on a trip when you want to go on a trip if you have someone depending on you. You can't just do what you actually want to do a lot of times when you're in that caregiver role, and that can lead to the bitterness and resentment. because you want to go out, you want to do those things, but you also are now feeling guilty about it. So people may be inviting you for things, friends may be inviting you, coworkers may be inviting you, but because you know that you have to take care of your PMDD partner, whether you're the partner that has PMDD or not, you may be like, if you're the caregiver for someone with PMDD, you may limit your social activities. You may limit it to only 2 weeks out of the month. Like you're only saying yes to social activities for 2 weeks out of the month because that's the only time that your partner can go. Or if you're the partner that's suffering with PMDD, you may have follicular days where you're feeling really good and you want to go out and you want to enjoy stuff, but your partner has another disorder or they have another condition that's preventing them from being there and showing up, and you feel guilty about going without them. So now you don't have the autonomy, you don't have that freedom. And for me, like I always said, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm an Enneagram 7. I value freedom and autonomy. If you put me in a box, I will probably freak out. I get very claustrophobic. And so when I find out that I'm limited on things, even if I don't plan on doing anything, I just want the option to, and with good intentions. So when you're in the caregiver role, it's what happened for me this past year and why I went to Hawaii was there were so many holidays where I would have gone on vacation. Like literally every holiday, at least once a month, I used to go on vacation. When I met my PMDD partner, that was part of the things that he loved about me. I was always going on adventures. I was always going out. I was always enjoying life. And this past 2 years that he's gone through his health scare and also just being in a really bad place at work where he just wasn't fulfilled and satisfied, I've not gone on vacation much at all. And the times that I did, it was very limited and very restricted. And there was a lot of bitterness and resentment towards that because that was one of my core needs and desires. And so I just want you to understand how when you're in the role of a caregiver, it can be a burden, but, and I'm saying this to you because I'm saying it to myself, it is not permanent. A lot of times when your partner is going through that deep, dark place, even if it's PMDD, when they're in PMDD is not permanent. I'm going to repeat that. PMDD is not permanent. It is only there for a set amount of time. So what you have to endure is going to be worth it in the end. It is going to be worth it because when they get into their follicular days and they're back to normal, and I want you to embrace those times, but also find a way, and this is what has worked for me, is like, that's why I took that trip to Hawaii. You have to find a way to also meet your needs as the caregiver so that you don't develop burnout. You're going to need a break. You are 100% going to need a break. And I don't want you to feel bad for the break. And even if your PMDD partner makes you feel bad for the break, it is going to be much needed because you have to be able to fill your tank up. This is not a role that you can do for long periods of time without replenishing yourself. And so I know my PMDD partner is about to go to the field for 2 months, and I'm going to use this opportunity to just fill myself back up and hopefully be back to what I consider normal, in a sense of I'm a very routine person. I'm very spontaneous, but I also love routine. And I just need to get back to that place of being fulfilled within my routine. Because right now, sometimes when you're in the role of a caregiver, your routine is completely off. Like you don't even find time to do things that normally kept you in your happy place or happy as you can kind of place. And suffering in PMDD becomes harder because you're running on E. And that's how I felt for the last couple of months. Like I've been running on fumes. And I want you to know, if that's you, if that's where you're at, I get you. Join the PMDD Partners Breaker Proof Academy. Go in there and get that support because that's part of filling yourself back up. When I got off of that live today, which we have every Tuesday at 12:15 p.m. Pacific time, when I got off of that, I had cried on it, I had laughed on it, and I had so much gratitude, and I felt a release. I felt better, and I hadn't even talked to my PMDD partner, and that's the goal. That's the gold in it, is that I didn't have to burden my PMDD partner with something that he wasn't going to be able to help me with. I was able to get help and support outside of him. And a lot of times when you're in that caregiver role, that's what you need. You don't need to try to handle it by yourself, but sometimes if your PMDD partner is not in a place where they can handle your emotions, which everybody gets there sometime, find another outlet. Don't put yourself in a box and say, I guess I'm just stuck handling this by myself. No, you're not. That's why I created the academy. So if you've not joined, go join. And until next time, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.